Welcome to a journey through the ever-evolving world of technology. This is Waggit, What's Good in Tech, where we unravel the wonders and explore the impact of tech on our lives. I am your host, Seun Koshoedo, and today we're diving deep into the past, present, and future of tech. Tech is evolving at a very rapid pace, and we're here for it. From the early beginnings of tech in Nigeria, where floppy disks and dial-up modems ruled the scene, to the present day where we carry the power of supercomputers in our pockets. It's a tale of innovation, disruption, and boundless possibilities. Today, we'll rewind the clock and uncover the prospects and challenges faced by the pioneers who dared to dream. We'll fast forward to the present, where technology has become an inseparable part of our daily lives, from virtual reality to artificial intelligence. The digital realm of transcended boundaries we never thought possible. The fintech revolution has shaped the financial industry, giving birth to a new era of convenience and empowerment. And now, we stand at the precipice of the future. A future where AI, machine learning, and automation hold the keys to unlocking unprecedented potential. But amidst all the excitement, we must address the burning questions. What lies ahead of traditional banks? How can policy initiatives pave the way for a more vibrant tech ecosystem? And most importantly, what does the future hold for Africa's tech landscape? Today in the studio, I have a very interesting person, a VVVIP with me today. One of the champions of tech in Africa, the founder of CWG, a 30-year-old Pan-African tech giant, Mr. Austin Okere. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. I almost got lost in your eloquent introduction. I felt like a listener rather than a participant in the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm super honored to have you here. How are you doing today?
Great.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Okay. So we're just jumping right into it. But before we do, we like to do something interesting on the show, twist things up a little bit. So I'm going to ask you a random question, and all you have to do is simply answer.
If I know the answer.
You definitely know the answer, trust me. So if you were to pick one choice over the others in these three choices, what will it be and why? The first is drive only a Tesla car forever. Use only an Android phone forever. Use a Mac OS computer as your daily driver. AO, what will it be?
Let me do by elimination.
Okay.
I use the iOS of my phone, but on the desktop I've not managed, so I'm still using the normal Microsoft desktop.
Okay.
So that's not my choice. And the second one was what was the second choice?
Drive only a Tesla car.
That was the first.
Use only an Android phone forever.
Use an Android phone. I don't use Android phones. I use Apple phones.
So
I just
Apple
can't
fan.
even. Yes.
I am an Apple fan too.
But
Just
not on
putting
their
out there.
desktop, which is strange. So that I've removed the other two. The first one looks like the Conco choice. But whereas I would love the Tesla cars because the car is always new. Once they update the OS, it's like a new car. They're electric cars. And if you live in Nigeria, where we don't have sufficient electricity, I just don't want to find myself in the middle of Third Mainland Bridge begging someone to help me with charger. So that would have been my choice in a city where electricity is plentiful. So it's still my choice.
Okay. So drive only a Tesla car forever
Yes.
is the choice.
Yes.
Okay, let's go for it.
Let's go for it.
Interesting angle to the different options that we have here. Okay, so AO, CWG, company that you founded, hit the big 30 last year, like I like to say. How does it feel to be the founder of a 30-year-old company?
That's an interesting question. Because sometimes we look at things from a 2020 hindsight. Hindsight is always 2020. When I started, I didn't know that it was going to be there for 30 years. And I didn't know that it was going to be the signature of the IT industry. But sometimes when we come on a program like this, we pretend as if we knew it from our mother's belly, you know. But what are the pillars and the factors that make CWG what it is, that has celebrated 30 years and is still going strong? I think the first thing were the pillars that we hone in on. So the culture was critically important. People can copy your strategy, people can copy your technology,
Right.
but people cannot copy your culture. And the culture is underpinned by the values that you want to highlight in the company. And those values indicate to people that are going to come into the company what kind of company we are. So if you do not subscribe to those values, you will not join. And if you do, you will not stay long. But those values are underpinned by certain behaviors. So let me give you an example. When you have a value like respect, it doesn't do much standing on its own. But when you have behaviors that underpin that value, one behavior being be on time. If you're going to be talking about respect, then let's be on time. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. So if we're going to talk about respect, a behavior will be to put yourself in the other person's shoe. Another behavior probably could be call it as it is. So don't prejudge. Don't judge based on someone's religion or tribe or ethnicity. Call a spade a spade. So if you have those culture underpinned by values, underpinned by behavior, then you will get to where you want the company to go. Don't get me wrong, that is only virtues. If I were running a drug company, doing exporting of hard drugs, this won't be the culture I'll be promoting. But what I am doing, this is the culture I'm promoting. Yeah, so you can make a lot of money by smuggling drugs in and out, but that's not what we want. So you will not attract that kind of person. That's the key thing, making sure that you belt your culture right. You also need, in my view, 5 things, of which one is the most important. Those 5 things are going to help you to always be relevant. I call them the 5 forces of transformation. And to make it easy, T, which is transformation, is equal to V, which is vision, team, timing, resources, and resolve, plus vision. Of all the 5, the most critical one that within your control is the team. And make sure that the right people go onto the bus. And make sure that the right person is sitting on the right seat. Simply put square pegs in square holes, round pegs in round holes. Empower them. Let them let their creativity unleash onto the company. You see magic. And for each team member, finally, we request 3 things. 1, character. 2, competence. 3, commitment. These are some of the things that have differentiated CWG, and these are some of the factors that have made it transform over time and being so sustainably successful to today.
Okay, so moving back to CWG, was there a moment where you decided that you were going to shut everything down, pack it up, and you're not just going to do this anymore? Did you have that moment?
I think you were with me in that moment, because not many people knew that I had those moments. Not just that moment, those moments. I can tell you one of them.
Yes, let's hear about it.
It was such a downer.
Okay.
So we were just only a Dell partner. I took a decision that I was going to be a mono-product company. In our early days, we're only going to do everything Dell. Nothing of any other brand. And because of that, Dell gave us access to their white paper. We became like the Dell in Nigeria. In fact, when we were in Surulere, 20 Adelabu Street, they used to call the front of our office Dell bus stop, which I didn't like, but So Dell gave us all their global customers in Nigeria to manage them, including ExxonMobil. Now, ExxonMobil had a project that they were doing in the upstream. They were drilling some wells, and they ordered precision Dell equipment from us. Very big order. And these orders are made for that company, for that project. So we brought them in. I took a bank loan plus whatever we could muster. This was a big hit. And then when the goods have sailed on the high sea, the government of the day changed the rules. How? So before then, we had destination inspection. The goods come, they inspect it, and they tell you the duty to pay, and you pay it. They changed the rules to source inspection using SGS Cotecna. The goods must be inspected, duty calculated before a ship. And then they backdated it. So what about those of us whose goods have already shipped? And the goods arrived here in Nigeria. I couldn't clear them because they had not been inspected before dispatch. Nobody wants to listen. My whole future was on that gamble. So I went to ExxonMobil and I explained to them the situation. They have their business to run. They said, okay, listen, Austin, we've heard you. We could have brought this in by ourselves, but the rule of Nigeria says you must operate through local companies. And Dell brought your name forward. We don't want to know. Friday, if we don't get our order in, we'll issue a cancellation letter. So, Seun, what am I going to do with this computer? My house, the most sophisticated thing was a flat panel television with a remote control. What am I going to do with all this computer? Who pays for them? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So, luckily, there was a flight lieutenant that I had met, trained him when they were doing their project, their technology project. And he saw me so downcast. I don't know what he came to do in Mobile. He asked me, and I told him, this is the situation. So that's the end of CWG. I mean, I don't know what to do. Can't ship the goods back. I'm not so sure. He said, where are the goods? I said, Nako Shed. Let's go. Just like that. We went to Nako Shed. He started the clearing process. He introduced me to one or two people at Nako Shed. Thursday, we couldn't finish. Friday, he didn't go with me. So Friday, I went to continue the clearing process with the waiver that I've gotten. Finally, I got the goods out onto the trucks at 3 p.m., straight to ExxonMobil here in BI. And I go there, and the gate man said, no, Oga, we don't close. We know they take goods by this time. I said, this man doesn't even know what he's talking about. So I just told the driver. He was parked in front of the gate. I said, disappear. The driver disappeared. Nobody was going in, nobody was coming out. Commotion everywhere. I said, no, these goods are not going anywhere. They are going inside that place. So that's how we took the goods and delivered.
Yeah.
As we delivered the goods, I saw the cancellation letter, which was withdrawn. But, I mean, what we have done, that was one of the close calls. There are many others, but this is the one that stands out.
So what comes to your mind, talking about survivors, anyway, companies that have survived for the past 30 years, like CWG, what comes to your mind when you think of the earliest technology companies from over 30 years ago when you started CWG? Now, specifically, what were the prospects for a founder starting out in terms of the success versus the failure rate? Then what was the business environment like then? And what happened to those companies that didn't survive?
When I was getting into the industry, so I graduated in 1986. I did my youth corps in NNPC in 1987. Okay. By 1988, I joined one of the big technology companies. And it was heavenly. Computers were, talking about 80s, right? Late 80s, early 90s. Computers were new. People were moving away from typewriters to computers. Big mainframes were being replaced by mini computers. Big business. Everybody was cashing in. There was .com boom. So companies in Nigeria will typically pay us 80% advance. Just imagine, 80% advance to bring in computers for them. But sometimes when things are so good, we tend to mess things up. So the big companies then will take that money, instead of applying it to the order of the customer, they'll trade with it, and then make a lot of profit and then eventually apply it. By the time the computers come for delivery, it's about 8 months, probably even obsolete. And that's precisely what I felt a bit worried about, that I was spoiling my good name, because it was rosy. But when the customer starts asking you, Austin, I bought from you, you're the one I bought from, where are my goods? Stories will never finish. It's on the high seas, it's on the low seas, it's coming, it's not coming. But you know that you cannot predict because the money is being traded. So that was a good time of the industry. As a result of that misbehavior, the industry got a very bad name. People were very skeptical. They tried then to, those that could afford it, use foreign companies to come and do the project directly. Now the young companies inheriting this bad legacy are trying to start. So I'm talking about companies like DataFlex, Charms, Microproducts, Cymog. And the business became twofold. Trading, which is buying and supplying computers, and implementing computer projects. They were not the same. So people that were buying and supplying computers, they thought they were computer companies. They were actually trading companies. Could have been buying and supplying cars. Then came the project implementation companies. Some of them did very well. Some like Tara Computers, they are no longer there anyway, but Tara had an early success with an application called Autobank that you could even buy along with Oracle on the Oracle site. How did it all go wrong? The discipline of change management. So when you are fixing bugs, there needs to be one clean copy that upgrades everybody at the same time. If you don't, you are going to have different copies of the software running in different places. It becomes difficult to manage. So Oracle took it off their website. But that's just to give you an idea about how difficult and different implementation is from just selling computers. We didn't do well on the implementation side. Then comes in CWG and our cohorts, which now focus on a hybrid. So CWG's strategy was partnership with international companies, whereby CWG will be the local fulfillment and will be as good as an implementation partner as the overseas company itself. The first company we did that in the software realm with was a company called Infosys with Finacle. At that time, it was called Banks 2000. Lo and behold, there was such a relief in the market when we came with that approach. And our first sale was not just one, but 3. Comet Bank, Standard Trust Bank, Oceanic Bank. Sometimes success itself can kill you. But this is a company struggling to do implementation properly. If we got them one at a time, I'll be happy. But 3 at a time, just like having triplets. I mean, everybody wants babies. But triplets is quite a handful. But we went through that period and did a fantastic job of it through the support of Infosys. And that really made us the hardened implementation partner that we are today, because we did 3 at a time, all successful. They did press blasts, testimonials, and then we became the dominant factor. First Bank followed, UBA, Stanbic Bank. Today, you are the leaders in that sector. But that's what it took to differentiate. Many companies didn't make it because it wasn't clear what the value proposition was beyond making profit. It wasn't, a rising tide raises all boats. But no country is going to be in the rising tide forever. Things like COVID will happen. The tide will fall, and we know those that are swimming naked. And it turns out that a lot of companies swim naked. Very few that are really prepared, such as CWG, survive, and some other ones. But the majority, if you are just depending on the tide to float without having any deep root, then you are not going to make it.
Okay, moving to the now, you mentioned Ausso Leadership Academy earlier. So I'm very much aware of your long-term passion for impacting people and businesses, which ignited ALE. And of course, ALE is 5 years, ladies and gentlemen. Whoop whoop.
Thanks for good wishes.
How has the experience been for you generally, and what will you see are the biggest challenges for companies in this environment?
I think for me, the biggest challenge about ALA was that people thought it was another business school. Business schools teach a syllabus to people that want to learn either finance or specialize in administration or whatever. The Ausso Leadership Academy is really about a bespoke dissection of your business requirements and needs, not based on a textbook, but uncharted water, based on the experience of the people that are running ALE. I mean, I have all those gray hairs and battle scars. So more often than not, I can understand what that business is going through at that time and bring up a unique solution that will help them. And the testimonies are abound. In 5 years, many of the companies which we have impacted, including DZ Media, have
Shout out to DZ Media.
they become international great companies. That gives us happiness. But the idea of the Ausso Leadership Academy came directly from the CWG Academy. The similarity is more deep than people can realize. Because when I was running CWG, based on the culture piece that I talked about, people put adverts in the newspaper looking for staff, and they'll put last line, CWG, please apply. And I was asking, is there something I can do about this? People were just sweeping our staff that we train, put in so much. We put them in key positions. People just came. If you wanted any person to employ the best, just go to CWG. But people didn't realize that it took a lot of training to make the CWG person that person that you wanted to employ. And you could also help by boosting your own staff so that we don't have to deplete CWG. About that time, a lot of the foreign companies were coming directly into Nigeria, and they were the masters. You can't match them. They were paying in foreign exchange. Sometimes a staff comes and says, I have 40% more. You say, okay, let's see what we can do. If he says, I'm getting 3 times what I'm getting, by the time I do my dollar to naira conversion, there's no discussion. So I said, okay, the best thing to do is to plant my own vegetables to supply my kitchen since I'm running a restaurant. So we started training people on the academy. Greenhorns, they could be that they just left school or they're doing other kind of business, they want to come in technology, and we put them through fire. At the end of fire, there's pure gold. And then we ask them, do you want to do software, hardware, or communications? In fact, when we were starting our ATM business, those were the inputs that we used to start that business. The CWG Academy is still there, thriving today. I understand that it's grown so big that you're looking for a full building just for CWG Academy. And I saw how practical impact could make a difference in building somebody up. And so the Ausso Leadership Academy is a direct replica of the CWG Academy, but this time not technology, but business and entrepreneurship.
Okay, thank you, Ew. It has been an interesting conversation so far. So we're moving a bit again from ALE to the financial services industry. I mean, the other time that you were speaking, you mentioned how CWG had played a big role in the growth that the financial services is experiencing right now. The financial services industry is undoubtedly one of the fastest growing industries in Nigeria. How, from your sitting point, did that evolve over time, seeing that CWG was a major part of this expansion? And what do you think is the future of traditional banks and their fintech contemporaries?
Okay, so that is true. I mean, if you take the financial services industry in Nigeria, is so well ahead of its peers. If you go to West Africa, whether it be in Ghana, Sierra Leone, even as far as Kenya, Nigerian banks are among the dominant banks in those places, not just in Nigeria. And you find that there are not so many foreign banks in Nigeria because we could do it by ourselves. And it didn't take a day to get there. Nigerians, by their nature, are creative, innovative, sometimes too loud for their own good. But if anybody can crack it, most likely the Nigerian will crack it. So when you put that mix together with a situation that forces creativity out of you, when Nigerians go out in whatever sphere that they choose to go into, they excel. Because back home is a tough environment. And that tough environment, put iron through hot fire to get it purified, it makes that creative juice flow very well. So especially in the financial sector, when we started, many people didn't have a means of spending money when they go overseas. You buy Thomas Cook traveler's check or you carry cash, which is dangerous. And so a few people opened accounts at Barclays. Barclays had a rep office here and maybe Standard Chartered and the rest. But Nigerian banks quickly realized the opportunity they are leaving on the table. So they quickly doubled up and came up with their own. Then it was Value Card, then Verve. Then MasterCard, seeing that, hey, these guys are running away with the game, came in with their partnership. Visa came with their partnership. So Nigerian banks gave you cards which you could spend outside. So you didn't need to have foreign bank cards. And it worked wonderfully well. But then came all these multiple exchanges and so on. So there are restrictions on the amounts you could spend on the cards. Then the banks became clunky. Payments took a long time. There came fintechs. I mean, maybe they saw the signs from M-Pesa in Kenya, but we took it to a different level. You have Paystar, Flutterwave, Paga, even CWG's own Fifth Lab, fill it in the gap very quickly. And the payments infrastructure here in Nigeria is far advanced than many advanced countries because their banks are they're doing well in their payments. But here, because the banks were clunky, the fintechs fill that gap very well. And those fintechs have now become global companies. In fact, international companies have bought some of them, like Stripe bought Paystar. And that has been going on. That development has been very fast. There are new ones coming in, the old ones, they are cementing their position. Where does that put banks, I think is the question. If you're outside, you say, the fintechs will take the bank's lunch and breakfast and dinner maybe in 5-10 years. If you are inside, it's not that simple. The banks still have a big role to play. They are the deposit-taking institutions. Even the fintechs need a bank to bank them. Some banks also went out to buy fintechs. I think you have to be very careful with that strategy. If you go and buy the name, say Flutterwave, it's not just the name. It's about the whole ensemble of the person, the ideas, the creativity. So you are going to bring Flutterwave into the bank. Then you have to give them the space to operate. You can't put them into the strict governance, creative governance compliance of the bank. The people will leave and you have an empty can. So I think they will both have their roles to play. And they're both putting pressure on the other to scale up. But there is always going to be a place for fintechs and a place for banks.
Okay, so do you believe the school of thought that says AI, robotics are going to take a large percentage of humans out of their jobs in the coming years?
It's very tempting not to hold certain aspects of that true. But it's not the first time it's going to happen in history. It's just a suddenness. So let me give you some examples. When we were going from manual farming, and in Europe they used to have manual farming. That's where all the slaves went to, planting cotton, sugarcane, and so on. Manual. Then came tractors and combine harvesters. So the ratio reversed. Instead of 80% on the farms feeding 20% of people, there were only 20% on the farms feeding 80% because of the machinery. But it happened so slowly. So those people that would have been made redundant found jobs in industry. Industrial revolution was starting, you see. So there was where to go and apply your skills. And when the age of digital came, it's been on since the 80s. People have had opportunity to train on technology and so on. The issue with large language models in artificial intelligence and the swift adoption is too swift. ChatGPT was launched maybe 2007. Today we have ChatGPT 4, which is maybe 10 times smarter than ChatGPT. If tomorrow we have something that is 100 times smarter than ChatGPT 4, the time frame in which people can transit to new skills is too short. So all of a sudden we'll have that glut of people whose jobs have been taken by the AI. Will it take people's job? It will. So yes, a lot of people are going to be hit. But there is very little time to migrate to other skills or even to deepen your skills in that ambit. So that's where the difficulty is.
So this is a bit off script, right? Don't you think ChatGPT will help people cheat the process or make people a bit lazy?
So Seun, I didn't even know that. I know you are brilliant, but I didn't know that you are super brilliant like this. This is a question not asked, but it should be asked. Mm-hmm. The best way to use artificial intelligence is in an augmentative manner, which means you have done the work and you want it to optimize it for you, and it will do a fantastic job. So that is the way in which the machine learns exponentially, even if our own learning is linear. Now we've gotten to a place where people just use it to generate PowerPoint slides. They don't even know what has been generated. Mm-hmm. So you do a beautiful PowerPoint slide presentation, and then question comes, everybody is quiet. Mm-hmm. Because you didn't put in the work to understand the fundamental of what you're asking the machine to optimize for you. If you use it as a helping tool, that's the way it's supposed to be used. If you use it to do your assignment for you without putting in anything, that's not the way. So if we use it to do our work for us because we are lazy, the learning rate of ChatGPT will not be exponential again because the input is not that creative. It's going to probably be linear. But the learning rate of the person is not even going to be going up. It's going to be, we're going to get dumber and dumber. So
thank you so much, Ao. It's a wrap. We've reached the end of another exciting episode of Waget. It has been a knowledgeable journey. We've literally moved from the financial services industry to tech to business itself. But three things I have gotten from this episode: culture. But culture might be a bit ambiguous, but break it down using behaviors. Have a value proposition, then have a plan A to literally Z to enable you mitigate risk. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of tech, banking, and fintech. A big thank you to our incredible guest, Ao. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insight and experience with us. It has been truly inspiring. Remember, the future of tech is bright, and it's up to all of us to embrace the opportunities and challenges it brings. So stay curious, keep innovating, and never stop exploring what's good in tech. I have been your host, Seun Koshoedo.